it. I think it's recording now. So ODOM is publishing, but still need to verify everything's good. Have a version of a map that's a little bit closer to my backyard, driven around with the joystick. The tractor is showing up in RViz, although the heading doesn't change. Still to do is to add logic to that particular Python file that's a part of the Navsat driver to filter out any GPS feeds unless there's actual movement. Because my GPS constantly feeds data, even though, you know, the movement might just be whatever, a few centimeters. Make sure the heading is displayed correctly in RViz. So I was still working on that. And then Matt told me last week that these are some things that I still need to plan on having to do. So that's where I'm at in my to-do list before I get very much further. Something that I mentioned in the Slack channel that I just wanted to share with you guys is AWS sends out these webinar things that I get periodically, and I watch a couple of them. They had a whole series of them about RoboMaker, which is their marketing thing, and they made a obvious commitment to ROS, and I just thought it was interesting how they're trying to find a way to, you know, be associated with or to support that, and they give you the ability to. I mean, this is their Hello World deal, and so in a matter of about 5 minutes, you know, you can log on and fire up, you know, a simulation, and I don't quite know where to go from here, but I mean, you get a how do I get back to? It's one of those things where you need 3 screens to make it like useful, but this sort of was. Where did they put that screen? I don't think I can alt tab that. There it is. And their particular Hello World version just spins this thing slowly with a twist command. But if you wanted to create, you know, a whole nother development environment, it's effectively at the moment they give you these 3 choices, you know, 2 ROS 1 options and 1 ROS 2 options. And at that point, you know, you can, I went through that process and it takes about, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes to get a development environment working. So I just thought that was interesting that they're trying to figure out how to support, be a part of, contribute, if you will, to the robotic world. In the webinar, they had a company called Labrador Computers, same guys who were a part of Lego Mindstorms, and you know, they're probably a little bit away from doing a public announcement about their next platform, which is going to be an assistance robot for, things like nursing homes, and, they're targeting the sub $1,000 market. And, they had used evidently this platform in their development process, which I thought was interesting. So anyway, that's a little bit of show and tell. But I don't know that the individual who just wants to, hobby around, if you will, would find use for it. But if you had 10 robots where you were trying to manage them all in a consistent manner, I think it would be a very interesting platform to consider.
Does that all run within the browser windows, the simulation for RoboMaker? I haven't used RoboMaker yet.
I haven't used it either, quite honestly. I mean, I just spun up a Hello World example. Ask that question again.
Is it all, on via browser windows? Is it a web app type thing? The way they've set it up?
Your interface is all browser based. So
okay. That's what I was wondering.
It's effectively a virtual machine. You're spinning up a virtual machine and everything's a browser interface. I don't know, when it comes time to plugging in, say plugging in a joystick and trying to drive something with a joystick, how you actually affect that. As with a lot of things, getting the networking figured out is pretty complex. But given that it's browser based, my suspicion is there's, some browser channel that it's exposed and they tap into that. But the speed at which you do it, I haven't used it enough to figure out the cost, but the speed at which you can do it is pretty daggone fascinating. Anyway, that's what's going on. That's what's going on here. Matt, anything you want to share this week?
Pretty good. I was just looking over the post that Jeff made, those lawnmowers.
Yeah, there was a ton of pictures there. What's this? I mean, he left, or is he back?
He must have got another phone call. He was last night at the other meeting. He got cut out a couple of times, at least once.
Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, there you are.
Just thought they did a really good job. The layout's really clean, and then pretty fascinating how they connected motors. It's like the mechanical part is always kind of interesting. So they're interfacing cables like this around their motor.
Yeah, I saw that. That's super professional.
Yeah, look at that. That's really cool. So you can add a screwdriver to and these look like those power window motors. That's what this one looks like. But you have to get that, and then you have to figure out some way to connect to it. So I thought that was a great post, and really cool electronics, and like their layouts of their boards.
Jeff, what's the backstory on that?
Can you hear me now? Can you see me now?
Yep.
Yes.
When you said I was gone, I could see myself. I didn't realize anything was wrong. That's on the Homebrew Robotics list. They got an email list, and they've got like 10 or 20 posts a day of stuff. And somebody just posted, here's my robot. And it turns out their stuff's on Google Groups. So I just posted a link to that. So they're out in Silicon Valley somewhere, and they have a robotics group. They were meeting at Google, and then I think they're meeting, now they're doing Zoom meetings too. So if anybody wants to get in their Zoom meetings, you could. And this guy is from SCC something, Southern California Robotics Group. And I looked, and they've got they're doing online Zoom meetings that are posted on YouTube, so you can go watch their stuff too. So that's another whole list of things. because if you go through those posts that I put up, and then down at the very bottom, he says, oh, here's another reference, and you click on that, it takes you to the YouTube, is one of the meetings that he was talking about, setting up a base station, I assume for his, whatever he's using for controller on this. So I don't know if, I didn't look hard enough to see if the base station means that he's doing an RTK base station or just simply a base station to remote control his thing. But anyway, if you go there and then click on, go back through YouTube and click on the channel, you can find the videos that they put up. And I think they've got another whole website of their robotic stuff. So that's just something that popped up and went by, and I just noted that. So, and those motors they were showing, that's the ones, if you go to mpja.com, I think they're like $10 a piece for those. That motor that has the screw on it. And I see they put it on a grinder and ground a flat spot, so it grabs their aluminum piece that they stuck on there. It turns out if I buy that at our local surplus store, they've got a few on the shelf, and actually in the back of the motor, there's the end of the motor is cut out. And it's got one of those little square holes in it, like you'd put speedometer cable type stuff into it. But the ones you buy from MPJA are sealed on the back. And I didn't try to take the back cap off to see if the motor shaft has that hole in or not. So that's just a couple things I noticed about that. And I believe those are 12-volt motors, and they do work. Oh, another thing on that I was looking at, and he says, right in that first posting, he says, and here's the power drivers I'm using to do my giant servos that I built. If you go look at that, I don't know how quickly I can find that. But there, it's a little square board that's got a big heat sink on the back, and it's got 2 of the automotive power driver chips on it. And if you look at it on that Amazon post that he shows, but you start clicking around, it turns out you can get 2 of them for the same price. So for like either $13 or $18, you can buy 2 of these things. And I think it says they're rated at 43 amps and 27 volts or something. So that's another option if you want to do, if you're just looking for H bridges. It did mention overcurrent, I think. See, that was under, let me see if I can find that. That was under random. Oh, come on. Signed out. Computers, huh? Okay, so how do you...
They're just a fad. They're going to go away.
I hope so. Okay, this will take me to Amazon. So this is the Amazon one. It's Amazon site. See, it's just got 2 of those automotive chips soldered to the board. And it basically says you just have like, I don't know, it's two control signals, and then power and ground right there. It says one, it's got the 2 enables, like a forward enable and backward enable. So unlike the Citron drive where you have a direction and a PWM, this one you can PWM the forward or PWM the backward to make it do what you want. And then down here, so this was it says $11.59 for one of these with free shipping. Or you come down here, and here's 2. Come on. Here's 2 of these boards for $13.89. So they're like $7 a piece for these modules. That's where it says 43 amps, which I probably won't do that continuously, but still, it's another cheap alternative to running motors. And this simply came from. Let's see how can I. So simply, if you go to that original link that I posted, and it's right in the first message here, he said, "Here's the H bridge that he used in the servos." That's how I got to that. So if anybody's looking for that, okay, do this. Yeah, so right in the thing there, it says, "Go to this website, go to this link," and that shows you the single one, or then I just scrolled to the bottom of that page and it showed me the double one, which brings up this ad for a double one. I thought, well, I could just order a few to have on hand, but I'm not doing anything. There's no point getting them, I guess. So just keep that in mind. That's another option for doing stuff.
Matt, anything else?
Just playing around with the visual odometry sensor.
I will give you the Labrador Systems guys. People were asking them about their sensor package, and they were a little bit. I found them to be open, but when it came right down to it, they were a little bit holding back. But they were saying we're all in on Intel, and they mentioned RealSense, and they talked about 2D LiDAR, and that in the price point they're trying to focus on. They're not going to do some crazy expensive LiDAR system. So I don't know if what you're using is exactly what they're using, but they were advocating the Intel platform. You're using RealSense.
Did they say anything about using it outdoors in particular? Or?
Their use case was all indoors. Alexa controlled, or Alexa interface. Alexa, go get me a drink of water. Or Alexa, turn on the light. Alexa, go get my medication.
Well, Matt, what's your experience been with trying to use the RealSense indoors and outdoors? Is there any difference?
So the stereo camera works okay outdoors. I haven't had a problem.
Does it work in low light, or did you have to be in the middle of the day to have it work?
Yeah, a good point. It needs light. So I haven't collected data at night, but that would be kind of fun to see what light levels it needs.
Do you know if those cameras pick up infrared?
I do not know.
So you could try to use infrared illumination at night and see if the stereo works. Or just do a search for it and see what other people are saying. It could be somebody's already checked for that.
Good idea. That would be cool.
Or you can put big floodlights on your robot when it's driving around.
Yeah, those LEDs or panel lights are really bright. And we don't need to see very far.
Yeah, it may affect your stereo depending how you light it too. So you might have to get your lights put in certain spots to either evenly illuminate it, or maybe you can even help it by putting your lights at certain angles or something. It all depends if you want to drive at night or not.
Absolutely.
But it is good to know they work indoors and outdoors. But if you're building something that's going to drive in and out of a building, that's good that you can use a sensor for both types of things.
Anything else, Matt?
That's it.
Doug, what's going on in your world?
Here, been on for a while. I did go ahead and mount that Android phone onto a gimbal, but the gimbal was kind of cheap. It's one of these, uses the SG90 9G servos, the little blue ones, and with one thing, a phone weighs that much, but it wasn't able to, like, the phone was laying down, it wasn't able to pick it up. Because what I was trying to do was use that phone, and it's in that aspect, be able to aim the camera of the phone around to look around when I'm using the phone as the brains for the robot. And my experience with that was, and then finally the plastic frame broke, and they were only like $1 or something on eBay or whatever. And of course the SG90 servos are only like a couple bucks. But anyways, that my experience there was need a more robust servo gimbal setup if I'm going to try and do that type of thing with that. And see here, I haven't really done much more on that, except I mounted everything on a board so I could control, use more. Before I had everything kind of wired together in a big long wire stream of wires. So by putting on a board like that and having like right there, it's a lot easier to handle and manipulate things than dealing with things strung out on different wires and so forth. At least as an experimental platform. I'm gonna mount the LiDAR on there too. But I might get a thinner board because the M3 screws that will screw into the bottom there, once I get longer screws, I suppose. The board's a little bit too thick.
You can screw it to another plate and then screw the plate down to your wood. That's another way to do that.
Yeah.
But as far as your gimbal, probably if you look, you can find ones that are made for standard size servos instead of the micro servos. And that way it's going to be just beefier to start with. And the standard servos you can get some fairly wimpy ones up to some fairly beefy ones all in the same package. So you can pick and choose what you want to use there.
Yeah, I think that's the way I'm going to go with that idea. It's definitely one of the other ones I got laying around here that are more regular sized.
Does your phone put out accelerometer data?
Yeah.
Because if you put your phone on the gimbal, then you can use the accelerometer to measure your tilt on the camera, the tilt and roll, whatever. So if you can read that out, then you know what direction the camera's pointing.
Yeah, because especially with definitely some shakiness, at least to this one, and in general, it'd be a nice check to what it's putting out.
Did you roll your own driver to get access to the accelerometer, or are you able to find something that's already written?
I just used example code and incorporated it into the app like I did the other stuff. GitHub. And then documentation from it. Google or Alphabet or whatever they're calling their, what are they calling their Android division now? Kind of split everything up into different things when they went to Alphabet. I don't know. Anyways, I like their the Android Studio setup for an IDE when I'm doing that, and so that's really usable for me for incorporating stuff. Although for Android development, when they go to a new iteration, a lot of stuff, some stuff, especially with networking, seems to, if you find an older example, it doesn't work, you have to hack at it for a while to get it to work because the standards have moved on from what they had,
Is it Java or C or Python? What do you write in?
Usually it's Java or what they have. It's not Python. It's some stupid name or Kimball or they came up with their own language name. It's like Python, but they called it. I'm drawing a blank. Okay,
It's
hold on.
interpreted, not compiled.
It's compiled into an app. See Android. C13 language. Kotlin, that's what it is. Kotlin is the language they came up with that they kind of are trying to push people to use. You can use either that or Java, and you can add, there's things that can move one to the other language, but mostly I'm using Java. for that, for Android stuff. Anyways, that's how far I've gotten with that, I guess.
Sounds very cool. I've written a mobile app before. I did load the ROS driver that somebody mentioned before about how to get access to the sensors with ROS, but just loaded it, didn't try to incorporate it. Do you want to tell us about that servo?
Which one?
The servo you just had.
Oh, this is just one of those 180 kilogram servos. And I was looking at the potentiometer. I got the one with the potentiometer on the top, so I could tap into what it's reading by soldering some wires to the potentiometer that indicates what position it's in. And so I be able to access that data right off from the potentiometer instead of trying to guess how close it is, giving whatever positional signal I'm giving it. And so, but that's part of this. I don't know if this is overkill. The controls on smaller ones, not throttle, but the gearing.
It's always good to have something too big.
Yeah, this is not powerful enough.
Although one guy was going to use one of those to control the actual throttle on his engine. I thought that's way overkill. You could just use a standard servo to do that probably.
Yeah. The throttle and the gearing is two different separate things on that. It's hydrostatic, but it's much larger arm on that part. We'll see how it goes.
When you get around to hooking your wire up to your potentiometer, I'm curious if that particular board is running at 5 volts or 3.3 volts. Because the boards I have appear to be 5 volts. So it'll have 5 volts across the potentiometer. So you have to be able to read 0 to 5. And the newest one of those that just came out, they claim that it's 3.3 volts now. And I posted that link to the new one, I don't know, a couple days ago, probably in random. But it basically, they still look the same, but it now has, they put the magnetic sensor on like Al has been playing with. So instead of the pot, it's got a magnetic sensor. And they added an extra pot on there so you could turn it and set your centering anywhere you want. And then there's a push button. You push that and it locks it in. It says that's the center. And they're also claiming that it's got the 12-bit A to D. So when it reads the incoming position, it reads as a 12-bit. And that's probably how they're doing their feedback too. But so I posted that a few days ago on probably in random on Slack.
I see here there's on the pins on the bottom. There's one called pot. So I wonder if that's already exposed on that pin. And I don't have to solder some wires onto the potentiometer.
No, I believe that's the input. So you could put an external pot.
Oh, use a pot to control it.
Or you can put a voltage in there. So you have to move your jumper that says do you want to run PWM or do you want to run analog? And then you can hook a pot up to that. And then you turn the pot, the servo will follow that. Oh, that's the other thing, that the new one they came out with, they've got an actual output pin, and it says it's 0 to 3.3 volts for position coming out of it.
Okay.
Now it's not clear if that's because it's still got the range pot on the thing. So they say the new one says it'll go 360 degrees, and then if you could use the range pot to cut down that range, but I don't know if you say cut it down to 180 degrees, if the voltage coming out is still 0 to 3.3 for a full 360, or if you set it down to 180 degrees, it'll give you 0 to 3.3 for just the 180 degrees. So that I didn't look at it hard enough. And their documentation wasn't real explicit. So, but they also wanted twice as much for it now. I think they want $100 for the servo now, and to me, I think I can just bypass that stuff and do my own without having to do that. Because I was able to buy mine for like $45. But if you buy it off eBay and you don't get that servo horn, the servo plate they call it, if you don't get that with it, then you have to buy that separately for their $11 to $13 or something. So I know that I believe, Doug, the one you bought, I think the way you posted it, you bought the servo and it came with that plate on it, and it was like what, $65 or something for that.
It was the horn was separate. It was like 15 extra bucks, but with all together, it was like $65, something like that, I think.
Yeah, so the two that I bought on eBay, I bought just the servo, and then they were like $45, and then I later had to go out and buy the servo plate to go on them. But I must say that they're machined very well and they fit on there really well. So, but I find you can't move the one between the servo 200 or the Super 200 and these new ones. That it's off by a few thousandths, and let's see, the one from the Servo 200 will fit on the new ones, but the plates from the new ones will not fit on the Servo 200 because they're slightly too small. So that's just another tidbit if anybody's playing with that stuff.
Good to know.
Well, here's a random thought on the business case for a hay baling robot. I was talking to a buddy who is going to take alfalfa bales down to Florida. And so the economics for him seems to work out. I guess this year alfalfa bales are bringing $300 a ton. So more or less 50 pounds a bale, 40 bales a ton. Takes 4 people 2 days at $18 an hour to harvest 1,000 bales.
You're talking about square bales or round bales? It'll be square
Square
bales.
bales. Alfalfa is all about, well, typically all about square bales because you're selling them to, high-end horse folks that are down in Florida showing their horses in the winter.
Okay. Up here, use the round bales and square bales. Actually, we have like 3 round or square balers on the farm here, but we just got a new round baler, so that's what we've been using this year.
Yeah, so a robot to pick up 50-pound square bales. Take 4 people out of the. Do you have one of those $90,000 pieces of equipment to aggregate square bales, or do you go around finding people to pay $18 an hour to?
I have some gloves.
You have some what?
Some good gloves.
You do all that yourself?
The square bales,
Yeah.
put them on the rack, stack them up.
And how many bales do you put up a cutting?
I don't know. I guess I didn't really have to calculate. I guess I never really counted. I just filled it up, filled up the rack,
How
bring
many
it back to the
acres?
shed. So that's a regular rack, so with no sides on it.
How many acres are you cutting?
For hay, we only got like about 5 acres. Plus, we cut grass on the side of the road because we don't. It's only for the goats and the horses and the ponies and the. Well, now we're starting to raise some beef cattle, so we're thinking about upping that. But that was kind of like this year thing.
Yeah, so anyway, Matt, we can pick up a 50-pound bale with a lawn tractor size machine, man. Wouldn't be hard. Sure wish I could drive one.
So when Al first started talking about doing hay baling automatically, I started thinking about what would it take to take a hay rack and be able to automatically stack bales on it. You know, so it could actually reach over and grab it off the ground and pick it up, but then how would you have to build some kind of a thing that moves back and forth on the rack, and something moves back and forth this way. So you come down, you pick the thing up like this, and you drive over here and you sit it in the right spot. I just wonder how complicated that would get. And if
I
you're going
think,
to do that, it should be
I wish
removable.
I had that problem to solve.
Well, yeah.
Well, one of the things that for picking them up, if you position the picker up or whatever right at the end of the as it comes out of the baler, then that would make that part of it a lot easier than trying to pick it off the ground or something.
Yeah, Doug's got the right idea.
But a gantry system mounted on top of a hay rack, that would be one way to do it. I don't know how tightly it's stacked, but
And at some point, you're palletizing them and just letting the tractor pick up a pallet and getting it back to a covered barn until you're ready to ship it out on a flatbed. Matt, come on, man. Got to get going. So many things to do.
Piece of
I'm
cake.
still
Already
farting
done.
around with ODOB messages.
Yep.
I want to pick up square bales. Help.
And something a little less efficient or less space efficient, I think I've seen in the past where they would have a baler and the thing would actually have an arm and actually just throw the bale straight back. And then their hay rack, they put sides on it. So they basically just throw it into this thing. So they would pile up in there. So you don't get a lot of them stacked up in there. You just get, but it's convenient because you just throw them all in there and then you go through hay racks real quick because you only get a small fraction of bales in there, but nobody has to touch it. It's just basically when it comes off, it would throw it and land in the rack.
that for sod, the picture that you were just showing,
Yeah, but Doug, how much
Yeah.
would you give for your square baler? What's it cost?
I know it's pretty old.
I know.
All three of them are pretty old.
I
I
know.
got
That's what we like. That's
International,
steampunk.
I've got a
What, $5,000? That more, probably less, $5,000.
$5,000 for a square baler. I went, well, for a new one, maybe.
Yeah. And so what do you think that thing cost, Matt, that you just put up there?
A lot.
Yeah. Come on,
Of course,
man.
you can sell sod for a lot more than you can alfalfa bales. I know what market you're in.
The point I'm trying to clumsily get at is I think there's a $10,000 solution versus, the John Deere $100,000 solution. But that's just, my crazy thinking.
Yeah, the new
Yeah, I
stuff.
wouldn't put them on the ground.
Say what?
Like, why don't you stack them when it comes out of the baler, like Doug was saying? Why put them on the ground and then come back and get them?
It means you have to have somebody on the rack to grab them and do that. So,
Yeah,
so
That's
otherwise
a-
Well,
you
they've got pallet stackers.
yeah.
So I don't know.
beautiful.
I guess you have to take a look at the end too. Like, you got to put it somewhere in the barn. So how do you get it? What's the shape of it that you want at the end, and where do you put it?
You want it palletized as quickly as possible so you can get it onto something that's, ultimately it's going to, if you're going to transport it anywhere, it's going to get on a pallet. Square bale.
They really haul those on pallets?
Well, I mean, that's certainly an option.
It would probably depend on who's shipping it for you. If you've got somebody that's got a big flatbed truck and you bring it over and you're going to stack the stuff on there and they're going to take the truck and unload it at the final destination, you can just do it like that. But if you're going to send it through a shipping company, they're going to want it on pallets or something, and they use a forklift to unload it, move it around, and store it somewhere. So it would all depend on you'd have to figure out who's going to ship it for you and how they want to do it, I think.
Yeah, the big squares, man, they've got a pretty cool machine that stacks those up and unstacks them.
Yeah, they, again, it depends on your use case, right? And what you're going for. I'm just opining on a very particular niche market. Square bales, high-end feed like alfalfa, going to high-end buyers, horse buyers are great customers. And they're dealing with 50-pound square bales because, you know, that's what guys with horses around are dealing with. And $300 a ton is what the market's commanding this year for a truckload of square bales or 50-pound bales in Florida. It's something to think about. The lawn tractor is big enough to do that.
Just got a tow.
What?
It just has to tow. I don't know, but yeah, it's funny. I mean, you could definitely do a demo with it, but probably want something a little bigger.
I was looking at the horsepower requirements for balers. We were doing the round baler. Round baler takes about 75 horsepower to run, which is just about what we have on the 3020, the old 3020 John Deere.
That's at the PTO.
Yeah, but the references for the square balers, they're only like, you only need like 11 horsepower. They're saying.
Yeah.
So you should be able to run that off a diesel lawn tractor. Like we have the 2305, and that I think that has that.
No, and I'm not suggesting you bale a square bale with a lawn tractor. I'm suggesting the lawn tractor take the manual effort for square baling is the guys schlepping those damn 50-pound bales after they come out of the back end of the square baling machine. That's the pain in the ass part of square baling. And getting
I just posted something in the chat link there where it's got a company that's making a device. It's picking the bales up off the ground, it shoves them onto a flat thing and then flips them up on the side. So that, and it looks like there's various other links that pop up on YouTube there for you could get different ideas of how to do this stuff.
Is it cost effective?
90 grand.
90 grand. That's a lot of. Well, depends how much you do.
Sorry, let me try to find my mute button. Shut up, dogs.
Well, it's after 12 anyways, according to Mr. Speaking Clock. So.
So my point was, if you go digging, I think there's lots of examples of how to do this, and I'm not saying you should go out and buy a brand new machine to do this, but there might be, you can say, oh, I could do that this way instead of what you're doing now. Because I've gone out before. When I was a kid, I'd go out and pick up hay bales and throw them up on a rack or stand on the rack and try to stack them. So I understand that it can be real pain.
Yeah, I remember those days. That's why I like this round baler. You just pop it on the ground and come back with a spear thing on the other tractor and then move them into rows.
But that 14-year-old girl in South Florida can't schlep around a 1,500-pound round bale, man.
Get her a skid loader with a thing on it. Yeah.
You just need correct advertising. You say Al's gym system. So you sign up and you get a manly workout, and you charge them to do that. Charge them for that manly workout to pick up your hay bales.
CrossFit. I got some stumps that need to be removed. Thought about opening a CrossFit gym.
So here's the conversation. I need 4 guys. When do you need them? Well, might be next Wednesday. Depends on if it rains. Might
Exactly.
be Thursday, but if it rains, then it'll be the week later
Tuesday.
because we might need to TED. Not quite sure. Okay.
Day laborers.
All right.
It's possible.
Sorry, guys. I got a little chaos going on here.
Just had that IoT egg thing yesterday too. That they have here. They had it all virtual. And that's some interesting. Has anybody done any experience with pig farming? Apparently, there's a Asian swine flu epidemic that's kind of like Ebola. They're using different ways of using automation to monitor the pigs so they can pick up on when they get it, so they can.
I saw a lecture on doing that with cows and the heat signature from their eyes. They can detect when they're sick.
You guys still trying to do it the expensive way?
Just look into their eyes with the heat sensor. All right. I'm going to head out here this afternoon, I guess. I go put that swatter tire in the truck so I can get the air tube tore on it.
Now that's not a bad solution. That's he's already finished it. What do you reckon, Doug? What's that go for? That thing on the back?
The automated bale stacker.
Yeah.
These you look at all these automated solutions for like in the egg industry, and whenever I see the price points on them, I'm like, just astonished or taken aback, I guess. Thinking what actually goes into them. I mean,
Because there's a lot of engineering, and they don't the volume.
Well, even with the engineering, it seems like they just any kind of automation, they just really hack up the price point.
See, he had to get off and muck around with that.
So, yes, yeah, I don't know, $100,000 bale stacker. I don't know.
That's a vision system with the ability to lift a 50-pound deal. Matt, come on.
Piece of cake.
You could do it next week.
Easy peasy.
I mean, Jeff's got the welder,
Not that difficult.
I know.
A couple limit switches.
Overnight,
Yep.
Wouldn't that be fun to work on?
Sure. Stuff's awesome.
Something you get your head
What if
around.
that automated bale stacker could be used in reverse to unload the wagon?
Big market, telling you. Clear, simple. Okay, gentlemen, something for you to think about. Jeff, what are you looking at?
Well, I decided to search for automated hay bales homemade. So there's probably people building things that it'd be a better place to start by looking to see what they're doing. But nothing popped up here, so. Here's people cutting and baling by hand. If you
Yeah.
want to get real ambitious.
Yeah, with get one of those
Here,
Grim Reaper blades and
The
tie 'em
Amish
up.
bring it all in loose on a trailer and
Sure.
bring it to a stationary deal and use a pitchfork and put it into a stationary deal.
you're on Mother Earth News. They says how to make a homemade hay baler. Well, they really are just making the bales. They're not stacking it like I was looking for. So they've got like some sort of metal rack. They're throwing their hay into it. And so that wasn't really what I was looking for.
You know what they should make is lawnmowers that bale your hay, and that way the rabbit raisers or whatever can.
The grass clippings.
That's what we use for the chickens.
Put it in little teeny pellets.
Well, you just, have the little hot, hopper
Bagger.
thing there that blows in, and you empty it out into their cage. Makes you know like that.
Something to think about.
So I changed it. I put in automated hay bale stacker homemade, and there are some things showing up here. So if you get ambitious, you could go look through this. And I don't know how homemade they are. They might look like industrial equipment by the time they're done, but that's still probably better than buying a brand new one from John Deere or somebody else. If you, as you say, if you happen to have a welder and a lot of parts laying around, you could try to make one. Let me just quickly check one here, see what it looks like. Well, it's kind of an interesting one here. Chat. This guy's got like a skid loader with just a big rack on the front. He just drives up to it and it just shoves them onto the rack. And I don't know. I haven't looked at it far enough to see how he unloads it, but so that's another option. And then looking down the associated links on that, it looks like you can get enough ideas from this to do it. So that's something that hadn't occurred to me. You use a vehicle to just scoop them up, and then I assume he just unloads those on top of something to stack them.
Yep.
So that's a different way rather than, my mindset was you pick it up off the ground, you throw it up on the rack, and then you got to stack them somehow there. So they're just different approaches to doing this kind of stuff.
You get it to a point where the tractor with forks on the front can pick up basically a palletized set and use an already existing tractor to get it back.
Another idea, you gotta let hay dry, but if you wrap it, then without eliminate the oxygen, they'll be preserved without having it to dry. You ever see any of that with your in the hay market over there, for Florida or whatever?
Say that again, wrap it when it's dry? I didn't understand that.
Well, you know how you cut hay and you gotta let it dry and then bale it? But I guess there's some research in there about wrapping the bale right away with cellophane or whatever.
Yeah, they call it silage.
Yeah, but but making a bale like that and just wrapping it so that it needs the oxygen to preserve the much, whatever that you cut, and then that would allow you to put in one operation, cut, bale, and stack, and all in one machine moving along. I've never tried that, wrapping bales.
Yeah, Norva, I'm mentally stuck on, that pulling up to that place in South Florida full of fifth wheel, shiny dually trucks pulling horse trailers and needing a dozen bales of hay. And willing to spend whatever for their really well done alfalfa. Anyway,
Tell them their alfalfa is grass fed and you'll get that extra premium.
say that again.
Tell them their alfalfa is grass fed and then they'll get an extra premium.
Organic. I guess it would, I mean, depends on what you use to fertilize it. You might actually get a premium for organic alfalfa. That I haven't, there are probably crazy people out there that want organic alfalfa, but anyway. Horse people,
Okay.
special breed.
Okay.
Jeff, you were going to say something?
I posted another link there of, it's kind of similar to what it was. He's just got a front end loader on his tractor and he drives up to his rack and he pulls off a whole layer at a time to transfer it. So again, just looking at different things that people are doing here, you get ideas on how to possibly do this better or easier.
I think I've seen that one before. Yeah, that's a visual system just waiting to be written, or perception system, I guess you would call it.
I was thinking somebody needs to turn their mic off because all that wind noise. I realized, oh, I got a video playing. That's why there's wind. Never mind.
There's a perception app right there, Matt.
That's pretty cool.
Well, let me ask a quick question here. I was back to talking about fiber optic gyros. So Matt, when you used a fiber optic gyro, did that solve all of your navigation problems?
Absolutely not. Jeff, are you
That's-
kidding me?
I felt that question should be asked.
It's a bugger. It is a nice sensor, very expensive.
Well, that's all I got for this time.
Doug, anything else? Did we lose Doug?
Nope, I'm here. I was just looking at some wrapping hay stuff.
Matt, anything else?
All good.
Going to have that hay collection apparatus added to your lawn tractor
To-do list,
this time next week?
no problem.
Okay, gentlemen, happy robotics. We'll talk to you later.
All right,
Bye.
bye.